Welcome to the Non-Essential Podcast. I'm Steve Gibson.
I'm Ben Matlock.
Mm-hmm. I like the name you gave yourself on Twitter a minute ago that I was going to call you as soon as we started the show, but I've already forgotten it.
Tush Tookus.
No, not that. I like that one too. But what you said, your dad called you the Diet Coke of evil. I like that. Like,
well, that's Austin Powers.
Oh, well, then I don't like it as much.
So I thought that's why you liked the tweet, is because you got it, but you're the one person I know who doesn't quote Austin Powers religiously.
Yeah. Nope.
If you ever go, you don't really play games with us too often these days because you don't have the computer to do it or the time, really. But if you ever came into our Discord room and played shit with us, it's just a barrage of fat bastard impressions.
But see, I am a fat bastard, so maybe it would still work.
I mean, it's just as soon as you jump into the voice chat, you would be like, "Hey, how's it going, my crap?" Like, that's all you would hear.
Like, oh, I forgot. I gotta go.
Yeah. Playing video games with me is fun. It's either that or like lame Peter Griffin impressions. Unfortunately, none of those can cover 30 minutes on the Non-Essential Podcast, as much as I've tried. On this show, we tell each other stories, and most of the time I phone it in. Let's face it, we're on the downhill. So...
I was just about to say, I like that every week it's you explaining what the show is, and you could say that it's like tradition, we just, because that's the format, but it's really because we're 182 episodes in, and I haven't figured out what the show's about yet.
It's about stories.
You're explaining it to me every week. Like, remember?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've always subscribed to the idea that any episode could be somebody's first episode, which means the episode we did a few weeks ago without a topic was very upsetting for somebody who it was their first time.
Every now and then we just decide, like, if this is somebody's first time, we want to make sure they never come back.
Yeah. So the 15-minute preamble to see if you're really our friend. And how much you can put up with. And this week we got a creepypasta. In the genre, that's probably become my favorite to do on the show. Which is the ritual genre.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, the
instruction manual to how to talk to Satan, I'm
surprised they're still your favorite, because I picture that every week, as soon as you're done, you go try the ritual out, and you're like, son of a bitch, it didn't work again.
Well, it's like a gambling addict. You're not turned off by losing. If anything, you're empowered by it. So I've wasted thousands of dollars in cryptocurrency going to the black market trying to get Satan mirrors and shit, and it hasn't paid off yet, but one of these days.
But that's the thing, you only need it to pay off once.
Yeah,
it's like the lottery. You don't have to win every ticket.
And all what I love about these ones, it's always like you get to talk to a ghost and you might go to hell, but it's like, use that portal to the other world to find out if that girl likes you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're like, it's like,
very
if
Ouija
it works,
shit.
Yeah, if it works, your next meal will be half the amount of calories. Yeah. But if it fails, your soul is doomed to hell.
If it works, a free taco at Taco Bell.
Right.
If they remember to put it in your bag.
Hey, we'll call back to episode 170.
Who says we don't have continuity on this show? I'll never let that go. Ever. It's that thing where it's like it's nobody's fault, but I'll hate everyone forever for it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too, though, because
the diarrhea I got on follow-up.
Yeah. Well, that's where I was going to go with that. Like, we had that episode, and you talked about They Left to Talk About, and then we had gone out to eat somewhere, like, right after that, a day or two after that, and they forgot part of our stuff, too. And I'm like, fuck, that's what I get for laughing at Ben. And then, like, the next week, because we go out to eat, like, every other day anyway, it was, like, the opposite. We went out, and, like, I was like, I'm going to be good this time and just order, like, a small, like, a single cheeseburger and whatever. And like Tara went out to pick it up, and she came back with like, oh yeah, they got to the window and realized they did it wrong, and they accidentally made triple Whoppers instead. But they're like, here you go, and it's like, okay, like that's 4 times the amount of food that I need, but I'm gonna fucking eat it.
Yeah, they knew what this was about.
Yeah. That's the thing.
They knew
like,
what
we
you were
recognize
trying to do, and they knew what you wanted to do.
Right. They're like, we recognize you. We know your husband. He doesn't want a small little single cheeseburger. He wants this giant fucker. Like,
to be fair, it's like, we talked about it then. I don't go to those places to be good. I go all in on the disaster. They make T-shirts about my fucking Taco Bell orders. Like, never forget.
I can't wait till they introduce the Ben Grande meal.
The Ben Memoriam.
So anyway.
Anywho.
Creepypasta.
So this
instructional creepypasta.
Yeah, this story is called Another Use for Bouncy Castle.
Ooh, I can think of a few.
Yeah.
They all involve food, like we were just talking about, because that's where my mind's at now. But
yeah, you could do a lot with the Bouncy Castle. But apparently there's demonic shit.
Yeah.
So, a brief introduction, which, I feel like creepypastas, they're all brief, but...
every part of them except the introduction. The introductions are the part that always feel like they're like 8 times longer than they need to be.
Childhood. The word alone probably provokes imagery of a time long lost, held dearly in your mind as pure and innocent. Of course, following your graduation from whatever primary school you attended, this whimsical world you once knew likely shattered into a million pieces, that's pretty
dramatic, yeah.
But also very true. I agree.
Yeah. Well, but I disagree with it being an instant shattering. It's been a 20-some year, like, fracturing
of an ice lake.
Yeah.
About to sink into it. These days, your childhood may seem distant and forgotten, but is it really unattainable? It'd be the dream to be able to relive perhaps even a day of childhood, the dead relatives you'd talk to, friends you'd see, experiences you could have. Honestly, I wouldn't want to go back and be a kid for a day.
No, but it would be... And the other thing is, it's like, oh, what would you give to be a kid for a day? As an adult, I could be a kid for a day anytime I want. That's the kind of definitions of being an adult. But like, it's lost a lot of its appeal when you have to deal with the follow up.
Well, like, if you could tell me I could be like fucking 21 again, I would do exactly what I did when I was 21, which is drink. Because I could take it. Now I'm like a total fucking bitch. I cannot handle it. Hangovers are the worst. But I wouldn't capitalize on it. I wouldn't be like, well, exactly. If I knew then what I knew now, I would still play it out probably the same way. Because the same things that stopped me from succeeding then are the same things now.
Yeah, and I agree exactly 100%. Like, I do see that appeal of like, if I could go back to like 20, 21, 22, like those 3 years were probably the best, because it was literally just like, I had to work and I was in school, but you do that stuff during the day and you barely like notice it. You just kind of sleepwalk through it. And then it was like all partying and you could handle it. Like, I think I got 3 hours of sleep a night and I was never tired.
Yeah. I miss that a lot.
Exists. Yeah.
Like, just so, the like, days of like, I went to bed at fucking 4 a.m. and got up at 7. And I'm pissed about it, but whatever.
And the only difference is on the weekends, it was like, we passed out drunk at 4 a.m. and woke up at 7 and decided to play a full game of baseball.
Yeah. Dehydrated,
right.
Fucking bunk ass baseball.
And when we were done, we hit the bar, went drinking. I could see like the appeal like of having a day where you do that again, but it wouldn't change anything. You'd just be like, I just killed my liver a little bit more and wasted another 24 hours of my life.
True to form, like, this ritual's already starting off with a premise I'm not interested in. So let's keep going anyway. Yeah, it's the dream, and unknown to you, it's all possible. This specific ritual goes back over 200 years when bouncy castles were king.
When Sir Reginald Bouncy Castle invented the first...
When Henry V was proclaimed all castles shall be bouncy. And has arguably existed in other forms for over 500. To put it simply, the ritual involves the use of a vehicle to temporarily transport a version of yourself back into your childhood consciousness. Sound complicated? Let's break this premise down. A vehicle is a loosely defined term, and over the years many hundreds of them have been used in this ritual, ranging from ball pits to jungle gyms to hopscotch courts. So it just takes the cost of, you getting arrested at a playground in order to transport yourself.
Yeah, because I imagine step one will be strip completely naked.
Yeah.
And cover yourself in Vaseline.
Put yourself in tighty-whities and then kick a kid off the swing set.
And say, I'm going back to my childhood.
You don't understand. You have it all ahead of you.
I wouldn't be in a 13-year-old's body. That's when the cops show up.
Big pedo. All it really has to be is a relatively large play structure, which holds sentimental value to you. We'll be focusing on performing the ritual with the most effective vehicle today, bouncy castles. I love the infomercial sales pitch of it is the fastest devil transport on the market.
And the best one is a Flame guy.
And if you look inside, it's completely full of demons. But no, it can be performed with other similar play structures. For obvious reasons, don't even try doing this until you're at least 16 or 17 years old. That's a very poor teenager. If you're 16 and you're like, fuck, I wish I was 12 again. That sucks. And it's funny, but I also genuinely feel bad for that person.
Yeah, that would be weird because that's that age where you still feel like you're finally getting to this.
16 isn't great, but I didn't want to be 13. Younger.
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to be the age that would get my parents off my back, and
right.
Turns out there is no age for that.
I completely admit I'm not responsible enough to have an 11 o'clock bedtime. I need to go back to when I had
Before then, you're too similar to a child for the ritual to work. A quick forward before the instructions and the details of this ritual. The ritual can be considered unsafe. Temporal travel has always been a rather risky phenomenon, and similar risks exist in this ritual, which will be described in detail later. Do this at your own discretion. So I like this writing so far. It's very reminiscent of some Control, that video game. This is how the doctors in that game would write about shit like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
To begin, you'll need to choose your bouncy castle. Fucking choose your character.
The pink princess or the
funny unicorn. To begin, you'll need to choose your bouncy castle. In theory, any one of suitable size, meaning large enough, spacious enough to contain you and some other supplies, will work. In practice, however,
have you ever seen a bouncy castle that doesn't contain at least one adult person? Because
usually one has to go in to save a child.
Well, yeah, and even if you're a child, you need room for the bouncy part of the castle. Otherwise, it's just a suffocation castle.
I remember one time I was visiting my dad, and this was when he lived in California, a California shithole, instead of the Texas shithole he currently occupies. And he had a friend, and this friend was, he was a piece of shit. A drug dealer, a bunch of shit. But he was doing some stuff on the side of drug dealing. Normally you would drug deal on the side. But he would have my dad help him out with they would bring just bouncy castles and set them up for kids' birthday parties.
Yeah.
And they would drag me and my brother along and not let us play in the bouncy castle. Which, okay, it's for somebody else's party, but what a shitty, like, why bring us?
Right, that's it, yeah. I want you to see what other kids have.
And I guess I've hated bouncy castles ever since. And my father. And my father's friend.
Yeah. So if you perform this ritual, do it in one of those big inflatable, like, sumo ball things.
Midlife crisis, fuck you, Dad. I'm a success, bouncy castles. I bought for myself at 45.
That's an idea. I'm going to design a bouncy castle that looks like your executive office. Adult bouncy castles.
It looks like my Tesla. In practice, however, some other factors are extremely important to your chances of success. For one, sentimental value is huge. The entire ritual is based on using the power of childhood nostalgia, so the more nostalgia or even affinity you have for the bouncy castle, the greater your chances of success.
So we're both screwed because you just admitted you hated bouncy castles, and
if they made
I don't
one
remember
like the fucking turtle wagon.
I was just about to say Ninja Turtles would be the thing to get me, but it would be the 100% the turtles and not the bouncy. I don't remember ever actually like doing a bouncy castle because it just never seemed.
Yeah,
it's like you go in and you jump up and down. It's like they
were like
anywhere.
Few and far between when I was a kid. Like, I didn't really interact with them until I was following my dad around. So I can't imagine for you saw too many of them.
Well, they were around parties and stuff. Nobody really cared. But yeah, my daughter's not even 3 yet, and I think she's been in more bouncy castles than I have in my whole life. She loves them.
They'll just. I feel that's what I mean, though. I feel like today a kid will like just go outside and like take 2 steps and accidentally end up in one. They're like a bear trap.
Our neighbors had one out in their front yard yesterday, and we were or Tuesday, I think it was, and we were just like praying that Lincoln didn't see it because she doesn't really understand yet that you can't just like go play on the neighbor's stuff. Right.
Okay, so the entire ritual is based on your nostalgia. Ideally, there would be a bouncy castle that you used for all your childhood birthday parties, which you loved. But that's quite rare, so Joe, try to go for something that you used in at least one birthday party. Don't mind if it's not the exact same. Slight differences in color or model don't matter as long as you feel nostalgia for it. If it's functionally the same, it's the same. If by chance you never had a bouncy castle in any of your birthday parties, close the page now. No. Think of one you used at another person's party, public event, etc.
They're really insistent that you have some fond memory of a bouncy castle.
If you love bouncy castles at any point, if you dreamed of the bouncy castle. I
mean, despite starting the instructions with, it doesn't have to be a bouncy castle, but you better fucking love bouncy castles.
I was just thinking that as like, also like, how do I bring a full jungle gym to my house? Like,
I was just thinking if I needed a vehicle with a nostalgia, it would be a Pizza Hut. Ours used to have, I think they all used to have, like that little like console table, like Mario game arcade. I think you could do Pac-Man or Mario or whatever. But it was like flat, like you sat at it like a table and looked straight down because nobody gave a shit about ergonomics back then. It was the fucking 90s, 80s and 90s. But yeah, that's what would transport me back. That with the Ninja Turtles on.
Just looking at this. This is a long one. I need to read faster.
I will
we'll
shut
be here
up.
for 2. No, it's the job to comment. I just need to read better. Stop stumbling over big words like somehow. If you somehow haven't stepped foot in a bouncy castle in your entire life, or you don't like them in general, consider using another vehicle or abort the ritual entirely. The consequences for an unwise choice in bouncy castle can be dire. So it's like the fucking Holy Grail in Indiana Jones.
Again, this just sounds like the front page of because I was just recently looking about renting one because Lincoln's birthday is coming up. and we didn't go that route, but I think the front page of every Bouncy Castle rental website is the consequences of picking the wrong one could be dire. So go with Joe's.
Yeah. Joe's Bouncy Castle. Regret to inform you, the show was brought to you by Joe's Bouncy Castle, but he's been arrested for putting traps in the Bouncy Castle. The other factor to consider is practicality, and while it's significantly less important than sentimental value, it should be noted the ritual takes up a good deal of space, and you'll want your bouncy castle to ideally have a wide, easily accessible area to perform it in. This may also be important in emergency situations. For this reason, an obstacle course style bouncy castle would be less than perfect. That would be hilarious. Just some 30-something tripping over shit.
Yeah.
As the devil swallows him.
I can't get up this inflatable fucking wall. I'm too fat and it just sinks.
I went for a whole Ninja Warrior obstacle course because that's what I had nostalgia for, and now I'm fucked.
I didn't know those things existed until we came across one at a festival recently, and Lincoln was like, like I said, she's 2, and we're like, I think this is too big for her, but she wanted to go in it, and it was getting towards the end, so it wasn't real crowded. We're like, oh, we'll let her try. She fucking flew through that thing. It's like, good thing I didn't have to go in after her, because I would never catch her.
I was one of those dudes who watched, like, Most Extreme Elimination Challenge and laughed, but also thought, as people were, like, breaking their ribs, like, man, that would be fun.
Oh, yeah, me too. And if there was an inflatable version of like Ninja Warrior's challenges, that would be ideal because I wouldn't guarantee kill myself. I still probably would, but there'd be a chance I'd live. If I tried to do like the actual Ninja Warrior course, dead, that's an automatic. But as much as I'm sitting here admitting how bad I would be at that stuff, I watch those shows and I'd be like, I could do that. Yeah. There's no fucking way in hell I could do it. But watching it, you're like, I think I could do that.
Yeah. It's kind of like, how you watch sports and you're like, if I had, gave it my all, I could have done that. For this reason, an obstacle course style bouncy castle would be less than perfect. 1, it might lack appropriate space requirements, and 2, in the event of the need for a quick getaway, you might have a less than ideal time escaping. Choose a day to perform the ritual. Any day of the year will be fine so long as it isn't a day of great tragedy or unwell memories.
That's every fucking day.
Yeah.
Like, it's America 2022.
Yeah.
What?
I gotta look up a bad thing that happened every single day of the year. Except my birthday, oddly enough. Only good things. I'd recommend trying it on your birthday, Christmas, or another day of childhood significance, but these are not strict requirements. That sounds like the saddest Christmas morning ever, is you just run off and hide in your bouncy castle.
Or your birthday. Steve, we want to plan a party for you. It's like, don't bother. I've got my own bouncy castle and I don't want any of you fuckers there. I'm trying something.
Celebrate your birthday by trying to get younger, instead of celebrating the fact that you're 1 year older. Make a choice and acquire your bouncy castle. Inflate it and set it up in a backyard. The backyard should be spacious enough to host your bouncy castle with room to spare. Although it would be really funny if it was like too small to host and you had to shove your bouncy castle.
You knock on the neighbor's door. I need to borrow your backyard for a
bouncy castles exploding through your neighbor's windows. For obvious reasons, the best backyard choices would be either yours if you have one, your parents, or your childhood homes. Yes, go to your childhood home and do this. Fucking great idea. They will not question shit, I'm sure.
I grew up here, trust me. I just need to set up this bouncy castle.
Oh, good. Your parents are home? Awesome. I used to live here, and I'm going to set up a bouncy castle. And no, you can't come in. I'm working on stuff. If you can't access a backyard, which you're sure will be secure, meaning one you have legal access to, then abort the ritual. There are still some supplies you need to obtain listed below. Don't be lazy here. Make your choices considerately, and you will be rewarded. In contrast, making them unwisely will put you at much greater risk. 1. Pick a crayon. Its color should be visible against the surface of the bouncy castle, and ideally it should be your favorite color. This provides the most guaranteed protection, but in most situations any color should do as long as it's visible. Pick a favored childhood book. The most important factor here is sentimental value, but it should also be at least 6 pages long with a middle point, meaning both sides of the spine of the book will be weighed equally when flipped to that point. Hardcover is also preferred. Pick a song.
Where's Waldo, bitches?
Yeah. But it has to be an even number of pages or you're fucked.
Yeah.
Pick a song from your childhood and any kind of music player. If it's working and loud enough to hear, it works. Again, the most important factor for the song is sentimental value. It needs to carry emotions and memories with it and needs to be from your childhood. The song can technically be any length, but choosing one under 2.5 minutes would be severely unwise. Which, fuck, I don't think I had the attention span for anything longer than that when I was a kid. Maybe some Eminem tracks.
Now I'm just picturing whatever kids live at my childhood home now yelling, "Mom, there's some fat old guy bouncing alone in a castle, reading Everybody Poops and
drinking Dr. Pepper."
Eminem was way after I was high school for him. It would be like MC Hammer or Vanilla Ice. Ninja Rap, that would do it. That would.
Yeah. Oh God!
Although I think that's probably under 2.5 minutes.
Nope, so Ninja Rap is 5 minutes.
Is it?
I don't know.
Oh, I thought you knew that was just offhand. I was impressed.
I remember my brother. My brother's a musical asshole, and he uses songs maliciously to hurt people. So when we're hanging out, he'll play like "I'm Blue, Dabby Dee Dabby Die" repeatedly to just like destroy your will to live. And I remember one time he played the Ninja Rap, and I was amazed how long it was. So
it's almost 4 minutes, 3 minutes and 51 seconds.
See, so like you said, it should have been 2. Or it should go on forever, and we should just live in a perpetual state. I go back and
it's
forth.
One of those songs that's famous from a scene in a movie, Ninja Turtles. If you haven't seen it, I feel sad for you, because it's one of the greatest like scenes in film history. But it's like there's a lot of songs that are famous from like a show or a movie like that. And then you find out that the actual song is like 8 minutes long and has all these extra verses that absolutely suck.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck? Like,
yeah.
A lot of like TV themes are like that.
But I don't feel that way about the Ninja Rap. It's all good.
No, it's perfect.
It's a perfect song.
But like I said, you got some strange fat old adult bouncing around in a castle listening to Ninja Rap, and
I wouldn't think. I would assume Adam came by. I would assume my brother was just outside hanging out.
Careful, you're going to turn yourself into a 12-year-old.
Yeah. The song could technically be any length to about 2.5 minutes, so it would be severely unwise. I cannot emphasize how important music choice is. You don't want to choose incorrectly here. Pick a toy from your childhood. Again, the more sentimental value, the better. The best option would be your favorite stuffed animal that you slept with every night for years. But not everyone has one. Any toy you enjoyed for a good amount of time will serve fine. Pick a candy you loved during your childhood. The same point of sentimental value applies. The candy should still be available today, and you must still like or tolerate its taste.
This sounds like you're just acting like you're 12.
Yeah, and
like,
put on a propeller hat and lick a giant lollipop. Pick 4 candles of a scent you found pleasant during your childhood. Whether you currently like the smell or not is irrelevant. Pick up a lighter along with this, or rub sticks together. Like, well, of course you'll buy a lighter.
Your favorite brand from when you were...
Or a flint and a pocket knife, like in your bouncy castle. Great idea.
Well, if you're trying to be a kid, it should be just like a magnifying glass in the sun, because we burned all
this
sorts
is
of
a
shit
fucking terrible idea, now that I think about it. You're bringing a, like, open flame into a bouncy castle.
Yeah.
Like... Good luck.
Make sure to use pure oxygen tanks to inflate.
With your supplies obtained and your bouncy castle ready, it's time to begin the ritual. The entrance ritual. Head out to your bouncy castle at any time of day when the sun is still out. You'll want to begin at or before sunset, just make sure it's not at night and you don't have other commitments in the time frame. I'd recommend trying it during the golden hour, as it produces the most nostalgic setting for most people. Inflate your bouncy castle if you haven't already done so. Once it's completely inflated, set your 4 candles in the 4 outside corners of the bouncy castle. Do not place them inside the inflatable. Okay, so thank God.
Yeah, that's safety conscious demonic ritual.
I'm just imagining a deflating fucking bouncy castle engulfed in flames on top of you.
As you're screaming, I want to be a kid.
That's all you do is just yell, I want to be a kid. And your neighbors are like, I fucking want you to die.
It looks like you're doing it.
Yeah. After the 4th candle is lit, enter the bouncy castle with your supplies and make your way to the designated ritual space. Take your crayon and draw a large circle in the space. It should be large enough to fit your whole body laying down with plenty of legroom. Take special precaution to ensure this is the case. Make sure the circle is clearly visible against the surface and unbroken.
It's perfectly circular.
Yes. Set your supplies down in front of you. Note, you can do the following instructions in any order. 1. Take your childhood book and read it. You don't need to read the whole thing, just enough so you feel and remember why it was so enjoyable. Once you've done so, flip to its exact middle pages. So if it was 10 pages long, flip to pages 5 and 6. Take your crayon and place it somewhere surrounding the circle. Take your toy and play with it for a minute like you used to. If it's a stuffed animal, hug it deeply. You want to reactivate those memories of fun. Take your candy and eat a piece of it. Don't wash the flavor out of your mouth with refreshments. Once you're...
Did I bring refreshments to the ritual?
Just somebody with a fucking 2-liter of Mountain Dew is like, oh, what?
Mom pops her head in. Ben, you want some lemonade? No.
No, you're fucking up the ritual. I want to be a kid, Mom.
Mom.
Your mom's fucking doing everything for you. You're trying to be a kid. Once you've done all of the above, arrange all your supplies except the song and music player in a circle around your circle. I'd advise putting the crayon closest to the entrance of the bouncy castle, but other than that, the arrangement should be fairly inconsequential. Take your music player and get your song ready. Keep it on pause at the beginning of the song. Place the music player with the other supplies around your circle. Take a deep breath. It's almost time. Lay in the middle of the circle. The orientation doesn't matter. Relax yourself. Think only of the memories you brought with you here and the carefree days of your childhood. Don't take too long to enter this state of mind, or you risk overthinking yourself into failure. When you are ready, say the words, I do not acquiesce, concede my time. Immediately following...
Just like you did when you were 12.
Yeah. I don't think I used the word acquiesce until I was 26. Immediately following the last word, you should feel your senses numb until they are completely gone. The birthday. You will feel like a floating being of consciousness. No sound, no taste, no smell, no anything. After a minute or so of this, you will feel each sense begin to return. Keep your eyes closed until you feel all your senses are back to normal. Open your eyes. If everything is as it was, and the song is still paused, and you're still in your time, then you have failed the entrance ritual. It's really not the end of the world. This likely resulted from a poor choice of supplies or a bouncy castle. You know, the most expensive fucking part of this whole ritual.
Yeah. I need to return this bouncy castle that I drew all over with crayon and get another one. No questions, please.
If you should have offered me an insurance plan, I'm sorry it's on fire, but... In this case, draw an X through the circle of the crayon, snuff out the candles, deflate the bouncy castle, and return to your home. But if everything is not as it was, and you awaken to the sounds of laughing children and parents holding conversations, then congratulations, you have successfully transported your consciousness back in time. Isn't that great? The first thing you should notice is you are now yourself as a child. Don't worry, your mind is still the same. as only your consciousness was transported back. Remember not to panic. Take a look around you. Your supplies will all be there, except for the music player. So what the hell is going on? This plane of existence is entirely supported by your supplies up in our reality. This is why your choice of supplies and proper following of the instructions was so crucial.
Which is scary because half of your instructions are like, well, you pick this, but or something like it. It doesn't really matter. Like it's kind of wishy-washy, but make sure it's crucial.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter that much.
But it better be a bouncy castle.
Or not.
Or not. Again, we're back to contradictory Food Network chef.
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking.
It could be a bouncy castle or a jungle gym. But if it's not a bouncy castle, you fucked up. Say you made a poor choice in candy. Notice how everything tastes bitter, or you can't taste at all. Or say you didn't flip the book to the midpoint, and now your vision isn't balanced between your eyes. That's kind of scary.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I would have appreciated if those tools were elaborated on before I transported myself.
Well, to be honest, though, because I had LASIK done when I was like 22, 21, 22, around there. My vision, I probably wouldn't fucking know, because presuming that I do it right and get put back into my like 12 or 13-year-old body,
imagine
I shouldn't be able to see shit.
Well, if it's not just your vision, though, you like leave the bouncy castle and one of your eyes is like drooping down. It's like, oh boy, I'm a kid, and you're like melting.
I was also a pretty ugly kid. So, yeah.
Wow, your son's so distinct. The candles and the smell, the song and your hearing, the toy and your sense of touch. All of your perceptions here are only made possible because of your preparation up there. If you properly followed all the instructions, your senses should be totally normal. But if they aren't, I'd proceed with extreme caution. You may need those senses in the event of an emergency, and proceeding without them functioning properly, or at all, is ill-advised. Now stand up and
I would
exit
argue
the
that
circle.
the sense of smell seems pretty unimportant. Like, you're like, oh crap, I can't smell shit.
Well, you can't smell the smoke of the burning bouncy castle.
That's a good point.
Stand up and exit the circle. You have been transported back to a birthday party. Yours. For any age between 4 and 9. Even if you're a twin or a triplet, it will only be your birthday, which is a little selfish. I want to go back in time, but I want it to be all about me. Looking around, you will see other children playing. Many of them you will recognize, being your childhood friends from that age. If there are any you do not recognize, don't worry, as they're probably friends from other stages in your life who have now taken the form of a child. That's also scary. That means you're dragging other people into your shit. Looking to where the adults are, you will see your relatives, dead and alive, babysitters, teachers. I can probably count on one hand the amount of teachers I would want at my fucking birthday party.
Yeah.
Any adult that was prominent at this time can be there. If you see an adult there that you don't recognize, return to the bouncy castle without hesitation. Do not talk to them.
They're going to, yeah. Yeah, they're bad people.
They're bad eggs. Do not look at them for too long. Don't say a word. Just get back in there and perform the return ritual. If everything is well, congratulations. You're now a child again and can do whatever you want. You can fucking firebomb a police station because you're 9 years old now.
I question the utility of this because there's adults in my actual, like, normal life that I don't recognize when I first see them. Like, it's like, oh.
Yeah. I have a good friend who I walked by in the park like a month ago and didn't fucking acknowledge him at all. And then he got on Discord and he was like, hey, were you at the park? And I was like, probably. You know, like.
See? That's what I mean. So, like, if I got there and I was like, stranger danger, and they'd be like, that's your fucking grandma. And you're like, oh, yeah, I remember her.
Okay, so you're now a child again. You can do whatever you please. Play with the children, talk to relatives, anything you want. But be aware and be vigilant. This place may seem safe, but there is danger around you. Keep your eyes open and you should be fine. So, the realm. How exactly does this place work? We've already covered your perceptions, but that's not all. The Bouncy Castle, or whatever vehicle is being used, is really the center of it all. It's your anchor into reality and your true self. Being near the Bouncy Castle will keep you grounded, but wander far enough and things might get eerie. If you are bold enough to exit your house, backyard, and venture out into the wider world, you will begin to feel strange. Color may become saturated and grainy in your eyes. Proportions may swell or shrink. These distortions will begin to take strong effect in around a 2 football field radius surrounding your bouncy castle. So that's a lot of room.
Yeah.
If you notice these signs, turn back immediately and return to the party. It only gets worse as you keep going. You may come to the realization that there are no people in this world besides your partygoers. As you venture further out, your perceptions will break down. Movement crawling to a halt. Your consciousness will be exposed and ripe. See, this reality you're in isn't yours. You are merely a guest in it, a visitor. Your bouncy castle also serves as a disguise for your entrance into this realm. The beings here don't like intrusion. They apparently want to just have a child's birthday party forever. And you coming in fucks it up. I don't know.
Yeah, but I like this thought that it's like the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park can't see if you're not moving. These things can't see you if there's a bouncy castle. For some reason, yeah, it's like...
Well, they can see you. They can't see how you got there, so they assume you're one of them.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no questions how a bouncy castle just fucking showed up.
And a bunch of strangers said they're like, oh, suddenly this guy that's one of us and all his dead
now
relatives
this is
are
a
here.
party.
Again, though, maybe these beings are just like me. They'd like look at each other like, was that always here? They're like, yeah, I think so. Like, they're just...
Yeah,
I swear you could like build a house between mine and the neighbors, and I'd wake up the next morning and look and be like, that was always there,
when
right?
I think I would be like freaked out, but honestly, like if a bouncy castle just showed up in my backyard during a party, I'd probably just roll with it, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, there's fucking magic afoot, but...
And nobody else is questioning this. I better not either.
You know, all right, so with every inch farther from the bouncy castle, you open yourself more and more to them. Not fun, right? Be sure not to attract too much unwanted attention. Honestly, nothing about this seems fun.
Yeah.
You just show up at a fucking old
that's the thing
birthday.
too. Now we're finding out that you could be anywhere randomly between the ages of 4 and 9. Like, that's some magical age. Like, again, even if I was going to go back...
4.
I didn't know.
I wouldn't do... Yeah, like, I would fucking not do anything.
You'll see other people and your friends there, and half of them are still being diapers.
Yeah.
It's like, what? And you can't... And don't bother trying to go, like, visit Chuck E. Cheese or any place like that. You're stuck in your yard, but have fun.
I think the only thing I slightly remember about being 4 is... I broke our Monopoly game board, dancing on it, singing the Ninja Turtles theme song. And my brother was really upset. Probably the first time he was really, really mad at me. And that, in retrospect, that made me glad I did it. Before it was just fun. Now it felt like the right thing to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, breaking a Monopoly board is never the wrong thing to do.
It was still playable. It just, like, you know how they fold up? It just cracked one of the sides, but it's like, it's still unfolded. You could still play Monopoly, but God, why would you?
Yeah, not with a cracked board.
Yeah,
fuck that.
The games go twice as long with a cracked board. Seeing as it's your birthday, a good amount of it will be fine, but try not to get hurt, damage the bouncy castle, or anything of the sort. These will only damage your disguise and expose you more. If you're discovered by any of them, you will feel their cold. Get back as fast as possible to the bouncy castle and get out of the realm. One last thing. In the true world, your music player will have automatically began playing your chosen song. Hopefully your choice was good. No matter what it is, you're on a time limit. As the second that music stops, your shields against the beams are exposed. Your fucking shields?
So now you have
space armor.
You can go be a kid in your own backyard, but it's not reality, and you've got 3 minutes and 51 seconds to enjoy it.
Yeah. You're telling me I have the duration of a Korn song to be 4 years old. Rad.
And you had to buy a bunch of shit to do it.
Yeah, this is so not worth it.
Yeah, it sounds way easier to just go get some LSD. Like, achieve the same thing.
You couldn't enjoy, like, just get LSD. Fuck traveling in time or trying to be 9. Just lay in a bouncy castle, tripping your balls off.
Basically the same rules. Make sure you got good music, be careful with the candles, and don't leave your yard.
Yeah. Probably no candles, in fact.
Yeah, that's true.
So each minute in the song roughly corresponds to an hour in this realm. Okay, yeah. So you should have at least 2.5 hours there. So now I think you should do a short song. Because I don't want to fucking be there for, 4 hours of the ninja rap.
Yeah, now I'm changing my choice to the Ninja Turtles theme song.
It's not that simple, though. Temporal travel is messy, and time-telling objects are one of the surest things to be affected. Clocks will be out of order, moving too fast. You get the point. You'll need to track the time yourself. Keep track of time by any means necessary. So, be 5 years old and count in your head, yeah. The sun's movement should stay consistent, so it's a good place to start. That's also one of the many reasons why doing the ritual at night is utterly stupid, as without the sun to track, you are effectively helpless. Should you fail
take this, jackass. I couldn't tell you from the sun's movement how much time's passed as an adult.
No.
Should
you fail to keep track of the time and overstay your welcome, your foreign nature will be completely exposed. The party will stop. They will stare at you, silent and unmoving. Within a few minutes,
just like
it'll be over.
Birthdays.
Yeah. So you've had your fun with the return ritual. So you've had your fun with friends and you're ready to return, right? Or perhaps you talked with some late relatives, gaining answers to questions you always longed for. Whatever you needed from this experience, I hope you've obtained it. It's time for you to return. Don't make a big scene of leaving. Remember, according to them, you were always here and never entered in the first place. Attracting attention to your whereabouts makes you a target. When you're ready, you'll want to do some preparation. Go to the store, buy another crayon. No. First, the
store better be within 2 football fields of your house, or else you're... Yeah.
Think about that child at home placement. First, if you haven't already, wash all taste from your mouth. Like, what, with bleach? What the fuck? Do this with water. It will be available. Following this, slip back into the bouncy house. No matter if other kids played in it, all your supplies should still be there, exactly where you left them. If something is missing, you absolutely need to find it. If you fail to do so, you won't be able to leave. This can have extreme consequences. Only proceed if your supplies are around the circle and crayon positioned. Perform the following instructions in any order. Take your childhood book and read it in reverse. Do this for at least a minute or so. When you're done, position it upside down back where it was before. Take your toy and play with it again, but this time, do so aggressively and without care for damaging it. When you're done, try and damage or break it. Succeeding doesn't matter. Just earnestly try to damage it, and you'll be good. Place the damaged toy in back where it was before. Take your candy and chew it without swallowing. No matter how it tasted before, it will now have a slightly bitter, unpleasant taste. Spit it out and place the chewed remains where the candy was before. Leave the crayon where it is. With this completed, lay back down in the circle. Make sure all parts of your body are within it. Close your eyes, relax. Fill your mind with this time with all the joys of being a grown-up. The beauty of obligation and deep love. What makes it truly better than being a kid forever? Take a deep breath and say the words, "We concur on this matter. I wholeheartedly return." Think about all those bills, and how much you
Yeah, that's
those.
what I love. It's like, because they're not wrong. We're talking about it. It's like,
well, imagine just the joy and fulfillment of the 40-hour work week.
That's the thing. Like we said, I don't know that I'd want to be a 9-year-old as opposed to a 40-year-old. But when
I don't like that these are two choices.
Well, but if it comes down to those two, I find it funny that the idea of why I would want to be 40 instead of 9 is obligation.
The beauty of obligation and the rigorous endeavor of staying alive. Once again, your senses will fade until you are solely your thoughts floating in the vastness. Wait for a minute. Hopefully you begin to hear your song. No matter how much time you spent there, it will always start playing from the last 30 seconds. You will hear it crescendo and shine. It will sound better than it ever has. Slowly, as the end of the song comes and the music fades, your senses will return to you. You have returned, but the danger isn't over yet. You'll notice you're back in your own current body with any warped senses repaired to their true status. Look around your circle. Your supplies should be gone except for the crayon and the music player. The latter will have stopped. I spent a lot of
time and energy getting those things.
Yeah.
And now they're just gone.
Some guy just walked by and stole your shit while you were asleep. The latter will have stopped playing, with the song you chose paused at the end. The former will be lying as it was. Take the crayon and draw an X through your circle. Go outside, snuff out the candles, deflate the bouncy castle. With these steps done, you can finally breathe a sigh of relief. It's over. You have successfully returned to the reality with the experience gained from the ritual. Most people feel an end to their desire to return to childhood and fully embrace adult life. In any case, I wouldn't try the ritual again. Your soul is now marked to the beings, and they will likely know when or if you return to that realm. Or perhaps you were stupid. Perhaps you're stupid, Steve.
I can take the mystery out of that one. I am.
Perhaps you're a big fucking idiot, and you were dicking around in your bouncy castle too long. Perhaps you were stupid and didn't bother finishing what you started. If you failed to cross your circle out or perform any of the final steps in time, then congratulate yourself, as you've just opened a temporal portal for them to come for you. If I were you, I'd just off myself at that point. Otherwise, enjoy the results in the rest of your years. Unless you're stupid.
Unless you're stupid.
Great ending. Very great, really honestly, pissy ending.
That's honestly what I'm trying to sell insurance policies. That's how I do it. You say, yeah, you really want this policy, unless you're stupid. And everybody's like, well, fuck, I'm not stupid. I'll buy it. I'll buy two.
You could use a bouncy castle or something else. If you're stupid.
Yeah. That was written by somebody that seems to have, and don't get me wrong, I had a pretty good childhood. I don't have anything to complain about. But I don't seem to have the strong nostalgia that this author has for things in their childhood. He's like, pick your favorite toy. It's like, fuck, I couldn't tell you what my favorite toy was. They're toys. Yeah. It's like, and then pick your favorite scents. And they really lost me there. It's like, I was a kid. I don't know if I even noticed smells at that point.
Definitely not like candle smells. My mom had scented candles, but I couldn't name any of them.
Right.
Really.
And if you could find, there's certain scents that, there are ones that stick out in my head. Like, our library when I was a little kid, it was one of those old libraries that had, the thick oak bookshelf still, and it just smelled like books and oak, the wood polish that they'd use. And, I couldn't, formulate that smell, but if I smelled it again, but you're not going to find a candle that's oh, Steve's small town old library book smell candle. I don't think Bath and Body Works has it. They might, except for I think they all went out of business, so they probably don't. But yeah,
I did have favorite toys. I definitely had a toy I slept with as a kid. It was one of those Beanie Baby ducks. And they'd name Beanie Babies, but I was like, fuck your name. This is Quackers.
Well, yeah, you don't go with their given names.
Their birth name. But yeah, I was obsessed with that fucking duck right in that age range. like, 4 to 35.
When I was probably around there, 5 or 6 or 4 or 5 or had to be 5 or 6. So I think it was after we moved. I remember having, it wasn't even a toy per se. We were on vacation though, and we went into one of those like just knick-knacky shops that parents just fucking hate because you can't go in with a kid and leave with something that makes any fucking sense. And there was like a little, it's like a ceramic dog, but it was very like, sculpted, but it's very lifelike, but it had actual fur like embedded in it. And it just, I love dogs. I've always loved dogs. And it was like, it looked like a real dog and, had fur like a real dog. And I just insisted on getting it. So I remember that, but it wasn't you couldn't like really play with it. It was ceramic. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I could pick, there's a bunch of toys I could pick that I know we liked as kids, but if you say pick your favorite one, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'd be fucked because again, it's when he's like, it doesn't really matter, but it does. And if you fuck it up.
Yeah. I don't know. I couldn't probably like name a childhood book. Like,
no.
It's probably some Dr. Seuss shit, but
that's the thing is like, I know that there's books like I remember loving. It's like horribly sad of a book as it is, like Where the Red Fern Grows or Wild Thing. Jack London, he's awesome, or what I thought he was. Those are very long books, and I wouldn't want to have to like,
and they weren't
read and find the middle of it.
Yeah, like when I got into reading, it was a little bit probably right after that age range they described, and the books I read were the Redwall series. Like that got me into reading. And they were long as shit.
I've got like 3 or 4 of those sitting on the shelf right next to me here as we record. I love Redwall.
But it's a great like entry point into like reading. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't want to go dicking around to try to find the midway point.
No.
For the stupid fucking Bouncy Castle.
Yeah, like I said, with all these steps, it seems like easier to just get really drunk, or if you're into drugs, just get high. Like,
that's the thing. You want to feel nostalgic, like do what I do, just like 3 beers, and you'll fucking feel nostalgic for something.
3 beers, and I just turn it to like 80s and 90s commercials on YouTube.
Yeah,
it's like
there's not been one time where I've been drinking with friends where you get like beyond 2 beers and the night doesn't turn into 90s buzz ballads.
Right.
So you can always go back with the help of a good brew.
My only real criticism with this one is that, it was fine, except for it did what a lot of these instructional ones do. Well, 2 things. One we've already made fun of, the kind of wishy-washy, like it's got to be a bouncy castle. Unless you're not into that, then it can be something else. Yeah. And there was a lot of like unnecessary. I had an example where it's like, oh, well, like just the whole explaining is like set it up in a backyard, but make sure there's enough room for it. It's like, well, duh. Like,
I mean, like reading some of the comments about it here, like somebody gave feedback about like ritual pastas, like, and I kind of agree with this. Like, there's probably a fine balancing line of like, you have to have enough details to make the ritual seem believable. But this one was also probably a little bogged down with like, obviously you need a fucking yard. Like,
especially when you're like, well, use, because it's like, use your own yard or your parents' yard or your kid's backyard, or if none of those fail, find another yard. It's like, well,
or tie up your neighbors and use their yard.
At that point, you could have just wrote the sentence, set it up in a yard.
Yeah, totally. It's one of, I agree.
And it's a minor nitpick. We all do stupid stuff like that with our writing, but that was the thing that stood out the most to me.
Yeah.
About it. Other than the, like, you sell me on the promise of, I could kind of see the appeal. It's like, go back and get to live again as a kid and the world that you grew up in. It's like, This is like, go back and get to live as a randomly aged kid between 4 and 9 in a specific backyard that you can't wander away from for more than 2.5 hours tops.
That was the other criticism I saw in the comments here, because it's like, and I agree with this as well, because I do think this is a well-written one, but the premise, like we talked about, is not universal. Like, nobody has... Like, I think very few people have that same nostalgia to be like, I want to be 9 again.
At a specific birthday party. Like, again, if I was going to be a kid of that age, I could kind of see the appeal if you could do it harmlessly and then come back. But
you're
also,
telling me I could die at any moment.
Well, and if I got to choose to go back, the last place I'd want to go back to is like a birthday party with like friends and family around.
Well, that's a Steve Gibson line if there ever was one.
Yeah. Well, but I mean,
the last thing I want to do is deal with shit.
Exactly.
I want to be 9 years old and asleep.
Think of the most fun days of your childhood. Were they spent at like a family gathering where there was some kind of rigid structure, or at least semi-rigid structure about what you like can do? And
I never had that big of birthday parties.
Well, yeah, maybe that's part of it too. Is my birthday parties were always, I mean, not like, oh, they always sucked, because they did. Again, I have no complaints. I had a perfectly average childhood, but when I get childhood nostalgia, my birthday parties aren't the first thing that I
was cool with like low key birthdays and shit. I think I had like a pool party once when I was like 11 or 12, and then that was kind of it. And it was like I still got presents and shit, but you know, maybe we would like go golfing or something.
Yeah.
But I didn't have like a big party with friends hardly ever. Damn sure didn't have a bouncy castle, so I don't know what the fuck I would do to make this work.
Right.
Just to give credit, because it didn't say it on the story itself, but it looks like, judging from the comments, this was by a user named Orangutango. So thank you for
Orangutan. Hey, if not the best story, it's not by far not the worst story we've read. If not the best story, I do say I think it's probably the best username of any of the creepypastas we've.
That's pretty good.
Read. Yeah.
So you know, I give that story 1. I read it out of 1. Yes.
It's like I said about the shitty energy drink that I had the other week. It's like, if you had to come up with a motto, it'd be like,
critics say this certainly happened.
Liquid.
This certainly happened on this podcast this week.
Yeah.
So that's the podcast this week. We will have another one next time. We just stole an hour of your life, and if you want it back, you'll have to rent a bouncy castle, a crayon, a can of WD-40, a great green macaw. Yeah. We're done. Bye.